Rolling. Okay, it's 4 o'clock
Okay.
on Thursday, December 10th. We have a quorum, so I'll call this library board meeting to order. I will note that this meeting is being conducted with people attending via teleconference, and as such, we will be doing a roll call for all motions and approvals or non-approvals. So, first item is the approval of the agenda, which is printed out on the tablet, or hopefully the people online have a copy of it. Are there any changes or adjustments?
No.
Okay, no changes or adjustments noted, so I will make a motion to approve the agenda as shown. Do I have a second?
Second.
I will second. This is Sue.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Pauline did indicate there's no changes, so I'm thinking there is probably going to be none. So then all in favor of approving the agenda as shown, say aye. So April?
Margaret Blomberg. Vince Burgo.
Aye.
Gabby Budensky. Sue Kimmel.
Aye.
Geraldine Jelberg.
Aye.
Dave Martinka.
Aye.
Bernice Schmitz.
Aye.
Ruth Ann Webster.
Aye.
Carl Zeidler.
Aye.
All right. Motion carried. Third item is the approval of the minutes from the November 12th, 2020 library board meeting. And those are also printed out or on display here on your tablets. And I will entertain a motion to, or I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 12th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second. This is Geraldine.
All right, I have a motion and a number of seconds. So is there any further discussion, any corrections, oversights, omissions? Did anybody notice? All right, hearing none, then we will, all in favor, we'll go through the roll call again.
Margaret. Aye. Vince.
Aye.
Gabby. Aye. Sue.
Aye.
Geraldine.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Bernice.
Aye.
Ruth Ann.
Aye.
Carl.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Now we'll go into the financial report, starting off with the November 2020 financial report and summary. Oh, Paulina.
Okay. We are 92.62% through 2020, and our budget is approximately 81.54% expended. Some of the expenditures under our general supplies included Hilliard for 425 roll-off. We replaced some of the ballasts that were out for 130, and Clausen for air filters. We replaced all the air filters in the building for 364. Otherwise, everything looks pretty good. I know we have some bills that are still going through, so that gap might not be as big as it is right now. And then as a follow-up to last month's CARES funding, I shared what the library was able to acquire with some of the CARES funding. And CARES actually stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security. The CARES Act was established as a relief fund, and it requires that the payments from the fund only be used to cover expenses that are necessary expenditures incurred due to the public health emergency with respect to the coronavirus disease 2019, and they were not accounted for in the budget most recently approved as of March 27th, 2020. So that increment for that period begins on March 1st, 2020 and ends on December 30th, 2020.
Okay. And then I see that the listing that you show, it's about $4,745, $46 of items that were purchased, and it looks like most of it is, it's not like additional wipes or disinfectant or
No.
anything like that, although those I would assume were eligible too if they're over and beyond what you would normally have
Yes.
use for the,
Yeah. For the most part, each department had submitted different things that we were interested in pursuing with the funding. And so we chose to go with the PC for self-check, the license for that, extra barcode readers, mostly to safely distance staff from each other. So each one has, each staff member in the back has the ability to check items in, so we're 6 feet apart, whereas sometimes at the circulation desk we are not. So that's the receipt printers, zebra printers, things like that.
okay.
Vince,
you
you
would-
mentioned the cleaning supplies. Those are being covered by FEMA funds.
Yes. Yeah, for the most part. So we do code any extra above and beyond what we normally use through FEMA. And I talked with our finance director about that, and the funding for that, the reimbursements may not come for several months, maybe longer, and that will come back into our budget through a grant revenue account.
Okay.
So that's how it'll show up.
But at least you've got it
Eventually.
documented and separated so that
We
it's
do,
easy
yeah.
to determine what amount that is.
Yes.
And you had mentioned the self-checkout. Are you going to be talking about that at any point during your report then, or could you?
Sure, I
mention
could.
what's-
Yeah, so we did, we are ready to debut that more than likely in early January. So patrons will be able to have the ability to check out their own books. So we'll put all of our holds for them to be available to grab them, whereas right now they're behind our service desk. However, it'll only for the most part be books. Everything else will have to come through the circulation desk. But if we have, some regulars who prefer to just grab their stuff and go, DVDs obviously we will not be able to because we have the duplicate cases. So we're hoping to, it's already set up. There's like 2 more things we have to do, and then we'll steadily transfer all the books out to a more public area and start on that.
You're going to have some easy to follow instructions printed
Yes.
out there that you can, with pictures and everything that you
Yes.
can kind of.
We'll start practicing ourselves too.
I know Leroy tends to do a pretty good job. I don't know
yeah.
if you put him in charge of making the instructions, but he did a pretty good
Okay.
job with
Oh, good.
with doing like the memory
Oh,
lab
perfect.
stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Mhm. We don't have instructions on the self-checkout just yet, but we will.
All right, thanks for that update.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that takes care of everything on the financial report. Are there any additional questions?
One question, Vince. That is all inside, though. You do come inside, do you not?
Yes. Yeah. It's all inside.
And there's
Yes.
only one,
Okay.
gonna be one station, right?
There's only one station. Yeah.
Okay. But like you said, that it'll be in close proximity to the desk, so that if somebody needs help with it,
Yes, we can help, and obviously some patrons might come up to the desk. I mean, they can grab the books off themselves and come and you check
Okay.
out with us as well.
okay, good. All right, cool. Anything else? Any other questions regarding the finances?
This is Sue. I had a question about electricity, and I'm looking at that amount, and I'm not sure if that's great or not great, but I just wanted to make sure that the library is doing all that they can in providing green energy alternatives when we look at electricity. I know that New Ulm is starting to think about joining the Green Steps program. And as part of that Green Steps program, the city is going to look at buildings that may need light bulbs or, ways of making sure that we consume energy. And I'm just wondering, and I know Derek, and I can't think of his last name right now, who's on the,
Nelson?
pardon me?
Derek Nelson, maybe?
Yes, Derek Nelson. I know it's part of the planning and all of this, and I just wanted to make sure if there's anything that the library can do to decrease its electric usage, that we maybe talk to Derek and see if he can assist. I don't know when the New Ulm Public Library has last had some kind of an energy audit.
Okay.
You may have just had it done, or maybe it's been a while, but I might start there.
Okay. To my knowledge, we have not had one recently. I know, I actually spoke to the city manager last week about just future goals. I know the Minnesota Music Hall of Fame just received a grant and they redid all of their lighting in the building, in their portion of the building. And I know it's something I think we might be able to pursue eventually. I don't know, but the funding for it would be about 80,000, I think, or more for what we would need to do in terms of replacing all of our lights and things like that. But that is definitely, I can follow up on that in terms of if we had an electrical audit done before.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea to at least.
Yeah, I
have
might
the-
just begin with that.
Go ahead, Sue.
I might begin with that energy audit and just see what the recommendations are, and might just approach Eric and talk to him about green step cities and the city is willing to do to assist the library in becoming maybe a little more green in use of electricity.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I know at 3M, we were in the process of the same thing, looking at that. And we've had corporate audits looking at how we can reduce our carbon footprint and energy savings. And we're in the process of updating all our lighting and getting rid of all the fluorescent lighting and switching to LEDs, which are much more energy efficient. But, as you mentioned, you get that upfront cost to purchase the LEDs, which is a big outlay at the onset, but then you make up for it later on with the annual savings that you get. And
Yeah, I have something to add there too. Since the last meeting, we had a good friend of ours that, where we used to live before we moved to New Ulm, met us, came to the door, and so we got to see him for the first time. He was in town to retrofit LED bulbs into Walgreens. They're doing that at Walgreens and Walmart. It's all over.
Yep.
So that's another thing that's being done. So
Yeah, Paulina had made a good point that that it looks like they've already started looking at that with the you said what, $80,000 for the outlay for converting everything from the.
That's what I actually talked to, because I found out that the Minnesota Music Hall of Fame was doing it, and our maintenance technician mentioned, I'm like, oh, we should do that here. And he mentioned it would probably cost upwards of 80 or more, just by the amount of lights we have upstairs, particularly.
But it might be something that we look at like we do with the carpeting, do
Right.
it in segments, and just budget for it, and then as we move forward, eventually it'll get done.
Yeah, and I can take a look. I know ALA, the American Library Association, once in a while has had some sustainable, green grants that I can maybe take a look
Right.
and see if it's something we might be able to qualify for.
Okay, good. Good discussion. Okay, anything else on finances?
Nope.
All right, then we'll move on to the librarian's report, and we'll start with the library department activities report and statistics for November. Paulina?
Like we mentioned at the last meeting, the Brown County Library Board met in November, and we received our part of the disbursement check last week. So that should be hitting the financial report next month. Otherwise, so we're kind of keeping steady. The memory lab was a little bit more quieter this month. We are, I think we only saw about 5 appointments. Kids' room has been, for the most part, pretty quiet. I know we had a little bit of an uptick this past Saturday, kids picking up items for the St. Nick program. Otherwise, our contactless pickup is steady. We're pretty much, I think, averaging about 35 or so a month of patrons who utilize that. And we encourage anyone who doesn't want to come into the library to do that. We put all the items currently on a cart in the vestibule, so you can pick that up right from inside. Otherwise, numbers are pretty much on par as they have been for most of the year. Our website page views did increase about 2,400. We are continuing to work on the website, so I think some of that might be better usability, and some of it is, I think, staff working on the back end to change some items over. And then I can go into programming, if that's fine. Our St. Nick program debuted this past Saturday. Kids were able to pick up cookies that Domeier's General Store generously donated to us. Our virtual Kids Comedy Magic Show will debut on Saturday. We'll also be having a virtual New Year's Eve celebration on December 31st for the kids who can't stay up till midnight. Or adults too. Guilty. In terms of adult programming, our history book club is meeting next Tuesday. We have a writing workshop and storytelling workshop with Christopher Schmitz, which will be virtual. And then I included some January programs. We have an author talk with Joel Kimball that's coming up, and a Bizarre History of Minnesota with Chet Lewis.
All right.
Any
And why don't you move right into
sure.
the staffing updates?
staffing updates? Sure. So we have 2 offers. April and I interviewed last week. 2 offers have been accepted. We will be doing more interviews later next week to fill one more position. We're anticipating everyone starting January 7th. Right now, a little bit after the holidays. And then a quick library COVID update. The library is currently open to the public at our current hours, which is we close an hour earlier Monday through Thursday. We don't have any study tables or chairs available for use by patrons. Computers are available for only 30 minutes. We recommend that people are in and out in about 15 minutes and send only one person from their family. Our patrons have been following library procedures, wearing masks, things like that. So that has really helped us to keep both patrons and staff safe. Outside Book Drop is currently open daily. I know we were only open on Mondays and Thursdays, but right now we're open all the time. All programs continue virtually and will do so for the foreseeable future. And our meeting room is not available at this time.
Now, at one point, a month or 2 ago, you had mentioned that there was some study nooks or whatever for students and stuff.
Yes.
Have those been utilized, and or how are they affected with this? The kind of pullback on the lockdown.
We don't have any study nooks right now. Yeah, we're encouraging people to be in and out.
Okay. All righty. So that pretty much wraps up the librarian's report. Does anybody have any questions for Paulina on any of the items?
This is Sue. I just wanted to ask Paulina if community members still have access to Ancestry.
Yes, Ancestry is still available online through, I believe the last data I saw was March 31st, 2021. So if anyone, for the most part, Ancestry is only available in the library, but because of COVID, they have made it available through from home, access through home. So you have to go onto our website, go into our online resources, click on that, and it'll bring you to either the website. It'll hook you through our library catalog. I said that wrong. So if you go into our library catalog, log in, and there'll be a link to it, and it should let you in, and it'll be the same view you would have as if you were at the library searching it. So you do need your password, to log into your account, but otherwise, patrons can either email us or call us, and we can set them up with that. And then we can talk about it later too. I know the one of the action items, the board approved the $5,000 for library of things, for additional materials, things like that. And one of that was the $900 for Creative Bug, and that will also be available to patrons. It's an online a platform where you can learn how to paint knit, crochet, all kinds of, there's learning videos, which is really cool. But the funding has actually come from Traverse de Sioux, so that's something we do not have to pay for.
Paulina, last month we talked a little bit about the hot spots and how they're being utilized. Since now the schools have gone to distance learning for a period of time, have you had any uptick in the demand for student use of the hotspots?
I have not seen any uptick in them. I think we had one checkout this past week. I usually get the signatures of when people sign for them. I have been looking at different funding options if we were to add a couple more. I did come across, I was looking in some demographics and census, and about over 80 some percent of our population does have some kind of wireless capability at home. So I think that is where some of that, the fact that we aren't as busy with the hotspot is coming from. But I will, I'm still investigating that in terms of if we had more, whether or not we would see more traffic or not.
Okay.
So you had mentioned that you're trying to get the patrons in and out, in a 15-minute time frame, no dawdling kind of thing. For use of the memory lab, that's difficult to do a memory lab in 15
Right,
minutes.
we are.
So is that an exception? And is there a time limit on that, or?
Right now, our time limit is 30 minutes. And like I mentioned in the report, we only had 5 this past month. So
Right.
I think for the most part, the individuals who have been working on items are just kind of transferring some stuff, so it's not really taking long. So it's pretty much on a case-by-case
Yeah.
basis.
'Cause I know the video one, if you go from
If you have a,
VHS to a
Yeah.
digital format, it's real time. So if
It's
it's an
however
hour-long
long that
thing,
hour,
you're going to
yeah.
be there at least an hour.
yeah.
So
So we do
okay.
recommend if patrons have the capability to kind of preview what they want to work on at home to do that before we transfer that. But we realize that might not
Yeah.
be possible.
Right. Yep, okay. Any other questions regarding the librarian's report? All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to the action items. The first one being Resolution 2020-24, approving the Library of Things policy and the user agreement. This is the second reading and adoption. We went through the first reading last month, and we put it out on the website. And so this is the approving Library of Things policy. The Library of Things is a collection of non-traditional library items that complement the New Ulm Library's mission to share as a community, a haven for learning, imagination, discovery. The purpose of the Library of Things is to provide diverse opportunities for learning and engagement, and may include items like home and assistive devices, audio-visual equipment, science and technology, video and board games, musical instruments, sporting equipment, and learning toys. Due to the fact that these are non-traditional library items, a user agreement will be necessary for patrons to sign to enable checkout. The policy and user agreement has been reviewed by the city attorney, and suggestions have been incorporated into the documents. And so we have the Library of Things policy, which I'll read through quickly. It's not too long. The Library of Things is a collection of non-traditional library items that complement the New Ulm Public Library's mission to share as a community, a haven for learning, imagination, discovery. The purpose of the Library of Things is to provide diverse opportunities for learning and engagement, and may include items like home and assistive devices, audiovisual equipment, science and technology, video and board games, musical instruments, sporting equipment, and learning toys. The Library of Things collection is developed and managed to meet the cultural, informational, educational, and recreational needs of library patrons of all ages in the city of New Ulm, Minnesota. The library's professional staff will select materials based on the needs of library patrons and welcome input from the community concerning the collection. All suggestions for purchase are evaluated using the same selection criteria as outlined in the library's collection development plan and are not automatically added to the collection. The library will use circulation data and community suggestions to guide future selections for the Library of Things. Items that are not popular and do not circulate well will be withdrawn from the library collections according to established procedures. The library can only accept a limited number of donations due to restricted storage space and the staff time necessary to evaluate, test, and maintain each thing. Materials donated to the Library of Things collection are subject to the terms outlined in the library's donation and memorials policy. Not all library materials may be suitable for all members of the community. Responsibility for the minor's use of library materials, regardless of format or content, lies with the parent or guardian, not with the library. Due to the nature of the items contained in the Library of Things, these items will not be shared via delivery with the other libraries in the Traverse des Sioux Library Cooperative. All Library of Things items must be returned to the main service desk at the New Ulm Public Library. The lending period is 1 week and things cannot be renewed. The library reserves the right to take a thing out of circulation temporarily to use for library purposes or to repair a damaged item. Patrons who borrow a thing agree to abide by the New Ulm Public Library's Library of Things lending guidelines, agreement, and informed consent form for equipment. Checkout procedure consists of a patron must present his or her library card at the service center and complete a Library of Things lending guidelines, agreement, and informed consent form for equipment. At the time of checkout, once a thing is checked out to a patron, it becomes the responsibility of that patron. The patron is responsible for theft, loss, or damage. If there are technical difficulties, return the thing immediately to the library. Never return a thing in the book drop. The patron will be held responsible for damage to the thing if it is returned in the book drop. Patron will be fined $5 per day that the thing is returned late. The patron is responsible for full replacement costs if the thing or any parts are lost, stolen, damaged, or otherwise not returned. And then there is the guidelines. I'm not going to read through all of it, but I'll point out a few of the things, the guidelines for borrowing and using them. Objects lent out by the library through its Library of Things program may only be checked out from the service desk. A valid New Ulm Public Library card with current address and no outstanding fines is required to borrow a thing. Borrowers must be 18 years of age or older. Borrowers may check out one thing at a time with exceptions made on a case-by-case basis for items for the whole family. Example, like snowshoes for more than one family member.
Or like life jackets, like we have life jackets.
Okay, and life jackets too, okay. Borrowers must read, understand, and sign this agreement before they check out a thing. The liability, the borrower is solely responsible for the thing and will be billed for reasonable repairs or replacement costs associated with damage or loss of things and or peripherals. A record of the replacement costs of things is available in the library's catalog, and those costs are available upon request. The responsibility to protect against loss is the borrower's. Proper care and use. As with anything, use care when handling. Return the thing with all parts and components. And then there's the consent form, which the borrower agrees to abide by the New Ulm Library of Things lending guidelines as stated above, to pay an overdue fine if the thing is returned late, and to pay full repair and or replacement costs should the thing or components of the thing be stolen, lost, not returned, or damaged. And then there's a number of paragraphs that basically cover the voluntary release, indemnification, warranties, and such, which basically put it all upon the borrower, not on the library or the library personnel or staff. And last couple of paragraphs, I understand that the library does not provide supervision or instruction for the use of the thing. I understand and acknowledge that the use of the thing involves risk of serious injury, including permanent disability and death. I agree to refrain from using anything in a manner inconsistent with its intended design and purpose. And then I have read this liability waiver and informed consent form and signed it voluntarily. I understand that I am giving up substantial rights by signing it, and then they print their name, sign it, and date it, and then the staff has an area at the bottom for use. Okay, so based on all that then, I will entertain a motion to approve the Library of Things policy.
So move.
I so move. This is Geraldine.
Okay, we have a couple of motions. Do I have a second?
Second, Rutan.
Okay, Ruth Ann seconds it, so we have a motion and a second. Okay, I'm sure there's probably some discussion. Anybody have any questions, concerns, issues?
Yeah, Vince. Yeah, Vince, this is Dave. I do. Since you say that you have limited space, I don't know if that limited space is already full or not. If it is, fine. If it isn't, what items are you expecting to be putting into there? I mean, there's all kinds of different things. But I just have an idea of what you think really is coming in.
Sure. We have purchased some playaways, which are little, we mentioned it at the last month's meeting. They are like iPads for kids, but they're not connected to the Wi-Fi. They have preloaded games and educational components. So we have a series that are coming in to learn the alphabet. The alphabet one is standing out at me. So different pads have like certain letters of the alphabet. So we'll have some of those. We are working on some early literacy backpacks. Also with puppets, books, videos, things like that. We're also working on some puzzles. We have quite a slew of games coming in, and we've checked out puzzles in the library before, but never as part of like a collection such as this. We have looked at. There are a couple of little sleds in my office right now that we will be checking out. A couple of I'm trying to think what else is in there.
The snow fort kit,
Yeah.
snowshoes, circuits, which are
Yep.
a pad that you can snap together different pieces to make electrical circuits for kids. An indoor fort building kit that has different pieces that.
I'm not getting much of that.
An indoor fort kit, some card games, some tabletop games. Nintendo and Sega Genesis released self-contained game consoles that have classic games from when those companies first started, so those will be included as well.
So it sounds like there's a whole variety of things that we've already got lined up.
And in terms of space, we have, I talked about moving the self-check. We have the bookcase that we use currently for our holds. Our goal eventually is to potentially remove that to create more sightline, but temporarily because of COVID, it is a nice extra barrier. We were thinking of using that to place some of that because they're small enough to store there. In terms of some of our bigger items, we would either have them in the staff room to be easily accessible, but then also like our life jackets are more seasonal. We were thinking about creating a space potentially downstairs to store those in the off season.
So it sounds like you've got a plan for storing this stuff, and you had indicated when we were talking before the meeting that you might have like a bulletin board or a display board that lists all the items that are available.
That are available and are currently available in the building too.
Right.
Obviously, it'll be searchable within our catalog, but once an item is checked out, we were thinking of creating that board just in case someone was browsing to see what they were interested in checking out.
And I'm sure, like as the policy stated, that things that don't go over so well will go off the list and things will be added. And it'll be a work in progress as we go along and fine tune it.
And see what our community is interested in as well.
Okay. Now, you'd mentioned that one of the things too, that if they lose an item or don't return it or whatever, they either have to pay the fine or pay the cost for replacement. But there was also the statement about some things being donated, taken as donations. So how are you going to put a value on the things that are donated? You're going to kind of look up what the manufacturer suggested retail price is or something? Or
that's what we
Blue
do.
Book value?
Yeah, we usually do that with like books that come in too, if we add them to the collection. Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking, this is Ruth Ann. Speaking of donations, are you planning to do some outreach in the community for donations. I'm specifically thinking about, the donations for the literacy games and that sort of thing. Do you plan to do some outreach to let people know that these are things that you need?
Right, that are available. We haven't thought of doing that at the moment. No, we do have. We did get a donation from the Optimist Club recently
Yes.
for our makerspace. So we have reached out to them. I think depending on what's needed, we may do so.
Thank you.
And did you get any feedback from the community in terms of what they would like to see on the, included in the library of things?
Not at the moment. No,
Okay.
we did
So
not.
you may get more of that
Yes, as we
you
go
roll
along.
this out. Okay.
Paulina, one of the provisions mentioned a restriction on checking any of the things out to patrons who have outstanding fines. Is that, first of all, a similar provision to checking out any other media or
Yes.
library catalog?
Yes.
The other thing is that a lot of that material seems like it's geared for young patrons, young users, children. Now, if the parent checks the item out on behalf of the child, if the parent has a fine outstanding, is the child still able to get that thing?
No, they would not, since the borrower needs to be 18 years and older.
So it essentially locks out the children from using the items
A little
if their
bit, yes.
parent has a fine outstanding.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there some workaround for that, do you think?
We can work with the patrons too, in terms of, for the most part, we don't have fines or fees, so we do work with patrons on an individual basis. It's mostly, if there's a fine, it's either an item hasn't come back, it's not really a fine on a book too. So, like I said, we work with patrons in replacing items.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we don't really have many fines going on right now, so
Right.
most items I would imagine have to be lost, kind of, don't they?
Yes, they do.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Geraldine. I've got a question about accepting donations from the community. Do you have a plan to, or a way to accept donations? For instance, will you require a patron who wants to make a donation to give you a call, plan for a meeting, or set up some kind of a way to evaluate?
Yes, yeah, we would prefer that. That'd be great.
Okay.
All right, and then as mentioned in the policy that when the, for any donations, it would go through the normal donation approval process. So at the time, if it is brought to before the board, it's been deemed worthy. Otherwise, if it's, if you feel that it's not going to fit within the policy or the library of things, culture, then we wouldn't use it.
Right. And like Carl mentioned, it is, right now we are mainly gearing it towards children, passive programming, just
Okay.
because we can't do anything on site kind of thing. But we have explored some adult options in terms of games and other things, but at this point, like sewing machines and things like that, but they're so intricate to work with, we would need someone very well versed in if something goes wrong. So, it's going to be a learning curve too in what we can provide.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, I have something else that have you checked with other libraries who have similar type policies as this?
Yes, we did some research in drafting this policy as well, of what has worked for other libraries.
So
This-
other libraries have
Okay.
utilized this and are
Yeah.
doing
This-
so successfully?
Yes.
Or-
This one is based on, I believe, a library out in California.
Oh, okay.
So we borrow our policies.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That can be good. And- have to read it in rhyme. All right, so we've had a motion and a second, and we've had discussion. So now I will take a vote we'll move on to the voting stage. So all in favor, and we'll go through the roll.
Margaret? Vince?
Aye.
Gabby? Sue?
Aye.
Geraldine?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Bernice?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
All right, so that was unanimous, so there's no nays, so motion carries. And the last item for today is resolution number 2020-26, the approving the use of $900 from the library budget for purchase of additional materials. This is the first reading and adoption. The Traverse des Sioux Library System will now be purchasing the Creative Bug for the region. We had talked about this last month. We were going to buy it on our own, but now Traverse des Sioux Library System has agreed to pick that up. So as a result of that, the library board previously had approved $900 for the purchase of this at last month's meeting. The library now requests that the money allocated for the Creative Bug be directed towards the purchase of additional materials for the Library of Things. Items that can be checked out, items that checked out by, we got a little misprint there, a little redundancy there, by patrons and families for passive programming at home for the winter months when we do not anticipate in-house programming for children and young adults to resume. So I will entertain a motion for basically repurposing the $900 that was previously slated for the Creative Bug to be used for now for the purchase of items for the Library of Things.
This is Ruth Ann. I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. So any discussion, questions?
Paulina, do you have a shopping list for the 900, or is that yet to be determined?
April does, yes.
April?
But we might not actually, the money that we requested, we might not actually use it all, at least this year. We might be able to use it next year, but.
So do we have like a kind of deadline for when this money has to be spent and such?
Our budget this year has to be spent by the end of the month, but we will more than likely roll over significantly. So we're just kind of buying up some items towards the end of the year, mostly in books and things like that. And then whatever we can kind of, we're not, doing it hastily. We're just kind of trying to figure out what we can get into the building by the end of the month.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussions or questions? All right, hearing none, then we'll move into the roll. All in favor?
Margaret? Aye. Vince?
Aye.
Gabby? Sue?
Aye.
Geraldine?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Bernice?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
All right, it was unanimous again, so motion carries. All right, that completes the action items. Now we move on to other business, the library board recognition. Alina?
Okay, so thank you to Vince, Dave, and Sue, who this is their last meeting. Yeah. So this ends their second terms. They have to be off the board for a year, and we hope if the opportunity arises that they can join us back next year on the board or the year after. So just a note for all those present and on the phone, next month we will have an election of officers. So if anyone is interested in serving, we will have 2 spots, for, president and treasurer. And Sue has also been our Brown County Library Board alternate. So if you want to start thinking whether or not you would want to be an officer next month, let us know.
Well, I'd like to say that it's been a pleasure and an honor to be able to have served on the library board generally, and especially with Vince, Dave, and Sue. Really appreciate all your input and insights, so thank you for your service.
And then you will be receiving certificates in the mail.
It's safer that way, right?
Yes.
All right, and then just as a side note on that, I will be campaigning for you, Geraldine, to take over as president since you've already got some experience with that.
Well, I already got an email from Geraldine, so
She bails. She says, "No, don't even think about asking me."
I'm hoping she could still be interested in being vice president. So vice chair.
Next year, can I come back in January just to vote once more for Geraldine?
No.
No, you may not, Dave.
Oh, okay.
All right, and any other business? Anything else that
Nope.
comes to mind on anybody? All right, so then as my final act, I'm going to use the gavel, which I've never had to use before, to adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
It's-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bravo,
Thank you.
bravo.
I gotta sign